So you lived in the highest city in America. What is it, 9,000 feet or something like that? Well, my background is I've been a billboard painter. I've been in the billboard industry for 50 years. And I started in San Francisco, California, hand painting billboards on the side of buildings, on the approach to the Bay Bridge. But what really got me started was they had this huge warehouse studio full of hand-painted billboards that they would paint on racks and then disassemble them, put them on trucks and take them out and put them on location. It was part of the Rotate program. And that's kind of where I got started. I did that for about a year, year and a half, all the menial labor part of that, because I was a union sign painter. It was a 5-year apprenticeship. So I started doing that, and they said, this kid's big and strong and fearless. We're going to send him out. And so then I became a journeyman, and I was up and down the Bayshore Freeway, all the big signs on the approach to the Bay Bridge. And of course, I got a little cocky and said, well, if I could do it here, I could do it anywhere. So I went to Los Angeles thinking, okay, I'm going to go to art school and I'm going to join the union down here and see if I could paint billboards. Well, I got into the art school, but I could not find a job painting billboards. It was so tight down there. They weren't looking for anybody. This was in the early, mid-70s. And so I ended up working for a guy named Terry Schoenhaven. He was a really well-known muralist in Los Angeles, really well-known. And we did some really fun projects. And then it got slow. And I got me a girlfriend down there who decided she was going to move to New York City. And, you know, I had to follow her because it was kind of selfish, but it was just an easy way to get to New York and paint billboards in New York. So I lived with her for a couple years and worked for Local 230 in New York City painting billboards till 1989. So like 12 years off and on, I painted all over the city. It was a fabulous job. I loved it. It was one of the best paint gigs I'd ever had. I just loved every day going to work. And I worked with this great cast of characters. Every one of them was a really talented artist, although you couldn't call yourself an artist. You never said, oh, look, we're great artists. Otherwise, they'd run in the back and they'd get this old French beret with dust all over it and they'd hand it to you and they go, here, kid, you think you're an artist? Put this on your frickin' head. It's like, okay, I won't say that again. So anyway, they were great. They taught me a lot. All these old timers, they were all World War II veterans, which was really interesting. You know, and I thought they were old, but they were in their 50s. And they taught me the tricks, taught me how to get around the city, introduced me to all the supervisors for the buildings, which was really important when you're in the billboard trade, because most of these signs were on the side of buildings. And you had to know the super, because he had the key to get on the roof. Frank Razziopi and Frank Saldo knew all the supervisors. So it was a whole different world than I grew up in. I was a suburban kid. I grew up in Hayward, California, and then I get to drop into these scenes and be on rooftops in these wonderful cities. It was a great, great opportunity. Of course, then I met Sue, and we found out that she was pregnant, and we're both living in New York City, and we said, we ain't raising kids here. We're not doing it. So we went on this great search in 1989 to figure out where the next place was. And it was Denver, Colorado. And when we landed in Denver, Colorado, we spent every dime we had to buy the house we're still in. So I had to start walking driving up and down all the main streets and looking for repaints. I was repainting old used car dealerships and wall signs, whatever I could do to make a living. And one thing led to another. The funnest part of all this whole story is I started running a billboard shop in Denver for a company called 3M National. It was part of 3M, the 3M Mineral and Mining Company. They had billboards, thousands of them. And the reason they got in the billboard business is because they invented this product called Scotchlite. It's a reflective material, and when car headlights hit it, it lights up. Well, they couldn't sell this stuff. So they started building billboards on their own, and their first largest account was State Farm Insurance. all over the Midwest, all over Colorado, everywhere. So that got them in the billboard industry, and then the boards kept getting bigger, and they ended up with 1,000 boards. Well, I was the guy that ran the plant for them out of Denver, and we painted signs all the way from Evanston, Wyoming to Kearney, Nebraska, and from Casper, Wyoming, all the way down to Trinidad, Colorado. I had 8 employees, and we would just load up our paint, load up our trucks, our rigs, and all that. And we'd go and paint them on site. Everything was done on location at that point, out in the middle of nowhere. And so you got a real good education about weather and just the whole environment, being in the middle of nowhere, painting billboard signs. Sometimes you'd go out and do 3 or 4 at a time. I remember doing the Silverthorne to Buena Vista run, and that was up through Silverthorne, up through Leadville. There was a whole bunch of billboards on the south side of Leadville, all the way down to Buena Vista. There were all these little billboards, and we'd hand paint them. It was just a great job. What I did realize is if you stay in any small town long enough, you're about ready to run for mayor, because everyone starts telling you all their gripes and everything, and it's just. But it's a wonderful thing, and then you're done. You blow out of there and you go to the next small town. And so that was a really good thing. But then what happened in 1995, the hand-painted billboard industry came to an abrupt end. Like somebody just flipped a switch. It all went to computer-printed vinyls, just like that. And I'm standing there with all these employees and all this equipment and all these trucks and this huge warehouse down in Denver. And the boss from the 3N plant came out and he said, well, I don't think we're going to need you anymore. Maybe we could be a subcontractor to hang a few of these, but we're not going to be painting anymore. And just like that, it was gone. So I moved to, Sue and I said, oh crap, what are we going to do? We had little kids. And so we started a little sign shop in Evergreen called Evergreen Signs. And it was very successful. We did well. We were the sign shop of record, raised our kids, lived in this little town, was able to coach Little League Baseball. And if you had to run them somewhere, you're always right there. It was, it was a dream come true. And then the kids got bigger. We sold the business. And I started doing murals again and built up a really good business in Denver doing murals. I'm called the OG down there. I thought it was the old guy, but it's the original gangster. I'm like the granddaddy of mural painters in the city of Denver. And there are a few of them left. Most of them are gone, but anyone that's in the mural business there knows Chris Krieg. And, I just had to make a living. I was just kind of slogging away, just doing whatever I could do. I got a couple of good accounts. I landed an account hand painting original artwork from the Denver Art Museum, of all places, because I was a real good photorealism painter. And so they would have me reproduce these originals that were in their collection, on whatever size the customer wanted, because they owned the rights to that image. And then I had this great idea. So I said, why don't we find a wall we could paint these on to help promote the Denver Art Museum? This is probably in 87, 86. And I worked with Julie Behrens on this project, and we found a wall right at 16th and Wazee. And every 5 months or 6 months, we would change the image. We'd put another piece of art from their collection. And it was wildly successful. And, kind of put me on the map as a real quality. Actually, what it was more billboard painting than it was mural painting, because I'm reproducing, I used to paint the Black Velvet Girl or the Winston Man or whatever, so, I can knock out the Potato Gatherers by Auguste Renoir in no time. So that was kind of fun. And then they ended up adding on to the museum. They shut any marketing programs down. They didn't have enough money to do anything, and that thing kind of died. And, by then I was still doing other projects, and I still do them now. My son and I run a company called Altitude Murals, hand painting murals in Denver. So it's worked out real good, and a lot of reputation involved in it. I have a lot of people that trust me, and they don't even have to question. They know it'll be right if they give it to me to do. There's no gray area there. So it's really been fun to have that to get to that status, to be a master painter like that on big walls. Now I'm trying to take that same energy and apply it to smaller artwork, because I've always done small work, but I've never showed at a gallery. I've just done big stuff. And so this is all new to me. This is such a frustrating stretch to do these little freaking postage stamp things. I mean, I got everything's kind of like, you know, I was used to going like this, and now you're going to go like this. I'll never forget, this guy left the sign shop in New York, and Louis Pugy, he goes, "You shouldn't leave, guy. You're going to go work in that sign shop. They don't even work out of gallon cans. They work out of little teeny cans when they paint." I'll never forget that. Because we always holding a gallon can of paint, you know? And I just got the biggest kick out of that, you know? And that was the whole thing about, you know, thinking big. If you're going to think, you might as well think big on these paintings or whatever you're doing. So that's where I'm at, and that's who I am. I mean, I have a huge repertoire of work that I've done.